All right, so we're recording now. So tonight's a little bit different for several reasons. We're going to go into a little bit different topic today, which is about covering rooting, which is typically, and some of the guys that have been on here for a long time, they know what rooting is. It's on stage 2. It's something that we spent about maybe 4 months over the winter, so the ones that were maybe 5 months from, so I would say October covering until about February, we worked specifically on how to root through the feet and everything, developing how to get your body connected to the ground, and then how to have your alignments as well. So structure is always the spine, the structure that your spine is in, and then alignments are always the joints. So you think of those two things, and I'll give you some examples. But what makes it unique tonight, and one of the reasons why we're covering this, is I have one of my really good friends here that most of you guys have heard about through me, especially the ones that have been on here for a while. I have Larry Dagenhart here with me. So he's staying with me at the house tonight. He's training. He's up from Dallas this week to work on his swing. And we got some good indoor training done today, but he can kind of go over that when we get time about his experience and what we worked on and what he's working on. And that is what we worked on with him today, which was rooting, which I think was somewhat enlightening for him. And then we can go out. We're going to go out tomorrow and hit balls and see what it looks like in reality. But Larry, if you don't know about Larry, Larry played on the PJ Tour, and he's right here. Let me see. Can everybody still hear me? I don't want to go through here without the... Okay, I just want to make sure. So if you don't know, you probably know about Larry from what I've said, but some of the guys may not. And Larry played on the PJ Tour. I think I have this right, 1978, 1979. Is that right?
No, 1980.
78
to 80.
78 to 80, I'm sorry. He played in 2 U.S. Opens, so as you'll see this week, obviously we have the U.S. Open. Larry is, I'm sitting with a guy here that has played in 2 of them. So so it's going to be a lot of fun maybe to get his input and what he thinks, what he's seen. We've kind of watched we watched some of the coverage. I usually don't watch a whole lot of golf anymore because I don't have time, but I was fortunate enough to sit by Larry today and watch a lot of the coverage and what is going on, and we'll get his input about what he thinks about it and what it's like to play in a U.S. Open, and go from there as we go along. But so anyway, on rooting, rooting is on stage 2. So I'm going to pull up. If you want to know where this webinar is going, I'm going to show you some physical demonstrations with using a couple players that we have in our database as far as for using image couple pros that we'll use so you can see. But it's this video here on stage 2 when you're on the Progressive Ball Strikers page. Go this one right here. And so it says understanding rooting through structure and alignments. That video will cover. I don't think I don't think it misses anything on it. And if it does, then I'm not at that point in my teaching career where I know what it is yet. But right now, that's the best that I have to teach structure and alignment. And it doesn't hold back. If you watch the study it, and you study yourself, you'll find that it's a long video. It's very technical, but it is exactly what we're covering tonight. And you really don't need a second video to cover these 2. I have 2 here. The one up above it is understanding structure and alignment. That's showing how we developed it through push hands. But truthfully, the video that you'll want to study is so you can understand all the different ways it can go, good and bad, would be this one, understanding rooting through structure and alignment. So just so you know. So we're going to go face on here. Give me just a second and I'll find so we'll look at Dustin Johnson here. If I thought I had, let's see, this one right here. We'll look at this one. And so what we're looking for, and when we talk about rooting, if you don't know what that means, all that means is if I have highlight this, rooting through the tops of the feet. And so you're rooting through the big toe and the second toe. And then that rooting it doesn't just stay like this. It actually creates like if you can picture like a little mini turn, but it doesn't really, it stays really tight in the balls of the feet, which is, if I erase this, you'll see So erase this. When it's all done, it just stays right in, so it'll stay, excuse me, right here, right on the tops of the feet, right in there. That's where the pressure will be. And then on this foot, it'll be right in this area. That's where all the pressure is going to be, right on the tops, not in the heels, not all the way past it. If you go past the toes, you start to lose. Larry could probably go into that, where we can show you how, if I push on you in different directions, what that does, and so forth. So when you go back, there's a lot of things that'll affect this. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like when you do it right. So if you look here, because the fact that he stayed centered over the ball through the top part of his rotation, through the upper part of his body, because he stayed centered here and he didn't drift off to the right. Now that you can drift left, because he stayed so centered through his rotation, so he's got a lot of right side rotation here from here to here. This is a lot of rotation. And then when I'll show you down the line, the angle that he's tilted on, it put the pressure exactly where it's supposed to be. It's rooted in the tops of the feet. If he was to hoping it's still working. So anyway, if he was to move off to the right this way and drift this way, then this leg would probably get pretty heavy, but there would be no, this leg would be really light. And so, and then vice versa. So if he moved hard left, that's kind of like the modern day stack and tilt, that's kind of going away. But somebody that pushes way over here on their left, they get this left leg heavy, and then the right leg would be right. What's exact is both legs should be equally heavy in transition. So when you get to the top of your swing, you want you don't want to be having to recover from one leg being really heavy and one light, and vice versa. You want to be rooted through both. So when you start to unwind, then it's fairly natural. You're not having to compensate, wait, and recover, because amateurs we talk about, they don't really recover. So anyway, what we'll look at is down the line here. So if you watch down the line, you'll see I've talked about this quite a bit. You know, there's a lot of talk about knee flex in the backswing, and I'll prove it to you, not just with him, but there's a lot. Now he's pushing it to the extreme, but you'll see he's not even done here yet. But as he's at the top, same golf swing, then this is really, if you look at that knee, it's fairly straight. There's nothing wrong with being straight with that leg at all with that knee. You'll see about the maximum you'll see flexed is to the tongue of the shoe with any player. And so, and I'm not looking, you know, like I said, I was telling Larry, I don't really draw pictures a lot when we do this. I just kind of show it what it is. But the tongue of the shoe is pretty much like a goal. It's not like people are thinking where your right knee is really flexed out here. When you have your right knee really flexed in your backswing, you block this hip right here from being able to rotate, which means you block power. You block the angle of the club, and you block power in your core. So you're locking up power. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about, so from the face-on view, you saw like where I show where he was rooted in through both feet, but this is the angle that you'll see more about, that it's a little bit different, that you need to down the line, which is when you see he's got his angle of rotation is more, and we've done this before, and you'll see this on the line, it's more angled this way. Most amateurs are angled when they rotate this way. They're more horizontal. So when they rotate, they try to turn their hips, and then they see their club get really flat, and that's just because of the posture that they're in. So if you look, if your posture's off here, and again, you'll have to study the video, the stage 2 video, to really understand where I'm going with this. But if everybody is really, you know, you're standing upright, the pelvis is tucked under you, you're curled up from the spine here, and then all of a sudden you try to twist back, yeah, your club's probably going to go way inside as you do this. Somebody that's angled, pressing through their toes correctly, you'll see that they don't, when they go to rotate, because of the angle that they set up, when they go to, they can pivot. You can see he rotates as much as he wants. He's twisting like crazy, but the club's actually really upright, pretty neutral actually by the time it gets to the top of the swing. If you look at like right in here, it's fairly upright, but then there it's kind of fairly neutral. But the reason why he can root through both of his feet is because of this angle. So if he turns his body, if we go back, and we go here, you can see that the quality of the rotation, he's got a lot of turn, and you can see both feet are rooted. But when we go here, the reason why that is because the angle that he turns on. So what I'm saying is you have to be aware of where when you're doing your video and studying your own swing, you have to be aware of how you're rotating and kind of your posture and that video that we talked about on stage 2 covers everything with that. And Larry and I really spent a lot of time working on that. Now, a good way to understand this is when you're set up. Let's just say you're not even set up. Let's just take it to the top, right in transition. So when you're right here in this area right here, you should feel like if somebody comes and shoves on you right here, this way, that you can resist. If somebody comes and pushes on you this way, lots of force, you can resist. Somebody pushes on you this way, you can resist, and then obviously the other way. We call it the 4 points of balance. Now it's actually 180 degrees. They should be able to push any different way, and you're not adjusting, but you are centered to anything that's being pushed onto you. And you do that, you don't do it by just not turning in your backswing. You do it by a full rotation, and then you start to look and judge. Now, some of that you're going to have to feel, some of it you're going to have to video. If you see that, one of the things we use is on iron play, we want the left ear on, and it's not a straight line, but we want the left ear right on top of the ball on iron play. Not woods, it's going to be slightly behind just because it's a little wider stance and you're just slightly behind it. It would be slightly behind that. So you can use that if you're looking. Now, if my left ear, if I'm leaning, my left ear is over here, okay, and that means my left leg's going to be really heavy, this leg's going to be really light. You'll probably do decent with your irons, you'll probably struggle with your woods. If you go opposite of that, and your left ear, which is right here, if it's right here, that means that everything's drifted, the spine is drifted. That's what Larry and I were having to fight today. That means that your right leg is going to be heavy, but then there's no pressure here, so that means that there's going to have to be a recovery, kind of a lateral shift in transition to get that rooted again, and then you have to time all that up, which is not what we want to do. So anyway, even though this is a fairly technical lesson, typically I would not do this in the summer. I'm doing it because Larry's here with us, and I thought it would be a really good time to kind of go over everything. And then what I would like to do now is I've covered the basis of what I wanted to go over. And then there will be more questions as we move forward, and I'll answer those as we move forward. But right now I want to introduce Larry Dagenhart, and then talk to him, let him tell you a little bit about what he learned today. He can tell you where we trained. It wasn't any fancy golf course or anything like that, but I'll let him take over, and then we'll go from there.
Hey, thanks, Matt, and hi, everyone. Yeah, it wasn't a typical lesson. We were in the garage, and we were learning what it was like to get rooted. And traditionally, I've learned my whole life of keeping my right knee flexed, and I was a drifter. I mean, I would drift as much as 6 inches to the right, and it would create a loss of power, and I wasn't really understanding why. When I was younger, I could recover because I had a fast course. So now I don't. So basically the key is that I have to let my right leg, feel like it's straightening. And the more I did it, and the more we trained, which, we were using a 2-iron and a wiffle ball on the mat, and I would train the backswing where the leg would get straight, like Dustin Johnson and Johnny Miller and the list, and Arnold Palmer, and the list goes on and on and on. And all of a sudden, I'll bet you if we had, a way to test my turn, it was 90 degrees of shoulder turn. And the key word being rooted is just stay as centered as I possibly could to stay stable. And then that allowed me to unwind much easier. And I think, we did a number of reps, and we would take breaks and go back. And so now I have a good picture of it so that when I go out, it's not like I'm going to be pulling for thing because we've trained it. So, I mean, I'm excited about it. And this has opened my eyes of 54 years of playing golf. And once again, the innovator, Matt, he's opened my eyes to, help me be better at age 63.
Yeah, and so one of the things with what we worked on with Larry was trying to get fully rotated. When he came here, one thing you have to realize with Larry is two things is that one is a PGA Tour player. This isn't a novice player, so this isn't somebody that kind of doesn't know. This guy knows what he's doing. He's also a teacher, so it's not like somebody that doesn't get it. But when he started, today, I think he'll vouch for this, is when we started the swing, I was telling him, I was getting on to him, I was like, your swing, it's all arms. It's everything is arms. He's like, nope, I'm turning. And I was like, nope, you're not turning. And we were just going butt for a little bit. And as we butted heads, he started to realize, yeah, no, maybe I'm not turning. And then as he started turning more, if I was on face on, as he started to turn more, which is something you're going to, when you study your own videos, you'll probably see, as he started to turn his right side really, really good like I wanted, then this head would start to drift even more. And we had to deal with that. And so you have to study that as you're doing this on your own. But one of the things that I got that made Larry understand this, he said, well, I said, the one way we can prove this is by pushing on you. And we call it push hands. You learn this from Tai Chi, is pushing on these different directions. And as soon as I started doing that, that strengthened up everything that he was trying to do. And then he had a cool word that I think that I know I've never heard it before, but he knows what it is. It's what confidence acceleration.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him what that meant. Would you like to
Sure.
talk? Is that your words?
Well, I mean, in order to play great golf, you've seen your confidence go way up very quickly. And working on this stuff right here is that, as a player that has played at the highest level, a little thing like thinking of, I'm going to let my right leg straighten just a little and stay very centered, and all of a sudden I just start striping it. And then my confidence goes through the roof, and I'm saying I got it. And it's called those aha experiences that the mental coaches sometimes can't explain, and I just call it confidence acceleration. I mean, you get the picture, which creates the feel, and it's just that simple. So, but have a process that you're going through it, and something you can fall back on. Mine for me is when I'm hitting it thin, and so I know I'm drifting. I just know I am, and so once you lock into this, it makes it much more simple.
Another thing too with Larry, that we made a video. We tried to put it out and it didn't work for some reason. I don't know why it didn't take, but when we started working together again, when he came back from India, we didn't even know it, but he'd lost all his power, and then we found out that he had cancer, stage 4 colon cancer.
That is correct.
And then Larry's, that was our first goal at that point. When Larry called me, it wasn't about golf anymore. It was about like strength and health and like what to do. And he worked with another guy, Mark Clement, I believe, mm-hmm. on a natural herbal program, and it helped along with, I think you had one surgery.
I got rid of all the cancer in one surgery.
And it's all gone. And so he kind of took this natural approach, and then along with surgery, right now he's cancer-free, and we believe he'll always be cancer-free. And so what we're working on now is we're getting him in. He's got to wait a little bit to get into the kettlebells and the yoga and all that, but he will be starting that pretty soon. He's working on his diet right now. He's working on everything, actually, and he's fighting, and he's already shown, like, with stage 4 cancer right now, he's cancer-free, and we believe we'll maintain that way. But golf, one of the things with the golf, which is why everybody's here, is like, well, why does that matter? Because I can tell you, and when your core, when your internal organs are suffering like his were suffering, and still are, your core strength is not the same. You lose core strength, you lose leg strength, you lose overall strength, which is going to cause more. It can cause, if you drift, you're going to drift more. If you move left, you're going to move more, or move forward, you're going to move too much forward. Move up, move up, move down, you move down. You're going to do more of whatever you would do because you don't have the same strength and athletic ability because of something as serious as that just takes you all the way down. So as we're doing this, I told him right now, and one of the things that we have to do now is more efficient than we've ever had to be in, really in his career. He could make mistakes and recover because of the strength. But now it's like we have to use more leverage, more torque, more of what's exact. Because we can't get away with recovering now, which in some ways that's going to benefit him as he comes back, because he'll tell you here in just a minute what his goals are, and he's going to come back, and you'll see the odds on you seeing him on TV again one of these days is pretty high. He'll probably be on there. But you can take over a little bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, when I woke up after, everything going cancer free, and I said, well, I want to share this story because there's people out there that maybe golf professionals that think they're done, that they would never play good again. And I'm here to tell you that anybody can get back to what you're doing. It's called discipline, having a plan, and stay with the process. And so I'm doing that, and yes, I will make it back. And Matt's going to be, an integral part of the team, and then I'll have nutrition and everything else to go along. But it's to pass it along, follow my story, follow and see how I'm going to do this, and at the end, hopefully somebody else will go, wow, if he did it, I can do it too. So, that's the whole genesis of my story that I want to share.
And then a lot of you know that I work with Wes Short Jr., but and I've said this story many times, like how I got to work with Wes, but there's one guy here that knows more than anybody of how I got to know Wes, and it wasn't by, luck or this or that. It was because the guy sitting right beside me, which was Larry. Larry Degenhart was the one that introduced me to Wes Short Jr., and that was when that was maybe
2008.
2008. So, and he was at Plum Creek. Larry and I had a successful relationship. Wes was laying. He couldn't even play golf at the time. He was so sick, or not sick, but it was the neck and the back and the low back, which was he couldn't play 2 rounds of golf in a row, and it wasn't, when he did play, it wasn't that good because he was injured. And if you guys have kept up with the Golf Channel this week, you'll see Wes Short is playing in the U.S. Open. He's 52 years old. He's the oldest player in the U.S. Open right now. He's the oldest player that's played in the U.S. Open in 20 years is what they showed today as well. I didn't know that stat, but he's the oldest player in the last 20 years to play in the U.S. Open, and he obviously qualified, did his thing. And so Wes was one of those, and he did an interview today, and I told Larry didn't know this story either, but I told Larry when he did an interview, I said he made a key comment there where he said, I didn't know if I was ever going to play golf again at one point. I had that conversation with Wes, that conversation, and it's the only time I felt like Wes was ever going to truly put up the clubs, so to speak, and he might just walk away from the whole thing. And it was because he couldn't play, it wasn't because he didn't love it. It was because he physically could not play because of the pain. And we had a swing as good as we could get it. We'd done everything we could do. He's doing everything right by the textbooks. He'd been to see every physical therapist between the East Coast, West Coast, North and South. And so we had a conversation. It was kind of, some of you know this story, some of you don't. But it was something like a prayer and a meditation we had at that time. And I said, look, Wes, what I want you to do, I said, I want you to say 10 times a day that, one, you're going to play on the tour again, and that, one, that you're going to be healthy again. And I say those 2 things 10 times per day. And he said he would. And we had a conversation. It's the first time I've ever heard him break mentally where I thought, he's serious. This could be it. And I told Larry the story today. So when he said that on TV today, or yesterday, whenever that was, he was talking about it, I knew exactly 100% as his coach, what he was talking about. And I remember that point. If he didn't know if he was ever going to play again, it was a really weird situation, but we both believed in it. We both did things to help, and the next thing you know, he calls me in a couple of weeks. I believe Fred Couples either called him or he called Fred Couples. I'm not sure. And all I know is he was set up to go within a month to Germany to have this this procedure done. It wasn't a surgery, and it was legal. Obviously, everything was legal by the tour, and there was some hope. And he goes over, does it. There's stories online about it. You can read about it to learn more, but has a successful procedure. When he comes back, he says, Matt, he said, you think we can be ready? We had a few months to prepare. And he went right after that as a healthy Wes Short. He went 7 for 7. He's 49 years old on the web.com, or 6 out of 7 or 7 out of 8, one of those two, I think it was, on the web.com for that year, just that year, and played golf in like 7 years. And so, and then, he went out and played on the PGA Tour. Now he's on the Champions Tour. he's made over, I think, he's on his way to make $3 million now. He's playing in the U.S. Open. So there's two stories. The reason why I brought up Wes's story is, one, because I would never have met Wes, one, if it would not have been for Larry Dagenhart, but they're both Wes also had thyroid cancer at one point, which was the craziest thing. It was back sweat that kept him out. And then he had thyroid cancer that he had to beat. And then, with Larry, it's just two stories here that are, true comeback stories, and guys that keep fighting, even when sometimes looks like the cards are against them, they stay fighting, and what you can do. And so I believe that helps anybody, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to kind of share what we were going to talk about tonight. But do you have anything else to go over?
No, I think I think all it boils down to is, there is hope, and in being, if you have a passion for the game like I did. I mean, I'm a kid that wasn't supposed to do anything, and ended up playing and qualifying for the PGA Tour and playing in 2 Opens, and I was not that good, and all of a sudden I did. Well, it was always that burning desire, and to have a Matt Christian in my life right now is just a blessing. And for what he does, and I call Matt, he's the innovator, and thinks way out of the box, and he just can prove everything. And if you just stay with him, which I will, yeah, you're going to see me. You're going to see me in the headlines. So, it's going to be one of those stories. That's all, and I just hope that helps somebody else.
One last thing is, before I get off here, and then we'll open up for questions and answers tonight, is I kind of forgot about it, but if you don't mind, just talk about what it was like to play in the U.S. Open whatever you want to tell us, from the beginning to the end, however you would say it.
Well, I guess the most special memory for me is in the 1980 U.S. Open. I was low qualifier in the Metropolitan section in the regional sense, and set a course record of 36 holes. And so I'd just come off tour in 1980, and lo and behold, I'm playing the group ahead of Jack Nicklaus and Gene Littler and Isao Aoki in the first 2 rounds. And I'm watching him shoot 63 the first day of the U.S. Open at Baltusrol. And that was just, well, it's a memory you'll just can't erase. And it'll always be there, watching all of that. And it's only 2 other guys that get to tell the story. So, they say, well, you missed the cut. I go, yeah, and I was upset, but, if you're thinking back, is not too many other people got to do that. So I feel pretty blessed having that.
All right. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to, let's see here. This may take a minute. We're going to open it up for questions and answers. So any questions that you may have, go ahead and fire away. Look like there's one. Is like, it hardly looks like, if you look at Greg put on here, Greg's a really good player out of Twin Creeks, says that it already looks like he's moving his lower body. It looks that way from face on, but let me show you what it looks down the line. Of course, it's a different club, but it's the same thing. Let me find it down the line. This is the same player that you were seeing face on. Now tell me that looks like, you can see he's moving his lower body a lot. Like, that's, if you measured that in raw biomechanics, that's probably 60 degrees, 50 to 60 degrees of hip rotation. But you got to remember, it's the angle of the root. The last thing I'd ever want anybody here to do is try to restrict their hip rotation with what we're doing. I want you to get here. And then if you're having problems, the problem is if you're able to turn that much, now with the driver, wedge may be shorter than that here, you still turn. Even like when I was working with Larry and I, he could vouch for that today, is like when he was swinging back. Now there's different ways. You don't have to do it this way, and I'll never say you have to do it this way. I'm just saying it's a lot easier. But if you look, you can see he's moving his right side just on this little bitty swing right here. His whole right side. That's not just his right hip, right knee, right foot, right shoulder. That's the whole, everything right side here is moving a lot, rotating. He's not scared. Now there's some people that, like Kenny Perry, frat couples, that don't do anything early and then they do it all late. But again, an amateur is not going to recover like that. They're not going to be able to do it really late and be efficient. If you're turning and you feel like you're turning your whole right side, there's 2 things you have to be real careful with. One of them is if you go face on, drifting away from the ball, moving off the ball to the right. That's the first thing you'll fight. I can guarantee you have to video it. no doubt about it, to see it, is you'll move off the right. But that's the first thing that you'll have to fight. The second thing you'll have to fight is whipping the club back inside. You'll have to fight that most likely. And the reason why is because it'll come back if you study your video from down the line in the posture. Your posture doesn't need to look like Dustin Johnson. It'll be impossible to look like him, but you do need to angle your rotation. You need to feel like the angle you're rotating on is pointing downward instead of, what happens is most people, and there's videos that'll talk about this, but the pelvis will pull up forward, then there'll be a collapse in the spine here, and then when you turn, it's more of a twist, and the club gets flat, and the shoulders get really level when you turn, and then it is inside, and the plane is, but it's an illusion, because it's not that the club's inside, it's the angle of rotation is incorrect. The angle is not down like this. The angle you're rotating on is horizontal like baseball. So then the shaft is goes with that. And so you have to make sure that when you're turning, that you're turning on top of your toes, and that says that in that video. I covered that video I was talking about. It didn't hold back. I mean, this video right here, understanding rooting through structure and alignments. Study that video, and it will answer any questions that you have. I can assure you that they're in there if you look for it. Now you have to study your videos. There's no way you're going to be able to. You're going to have to look at your swing to study it, face on it down the line to see kind of what is going on, and then you start to go away from that and you start to feel it. Like Larry and I were talking today. Like you want to learn how to feel it inside, and that's where you get that. When you do that, that's what Larry was talking about, where you get that confident acceleration.
Now you create a picture, or a thought. You create a thought first, and then that creates a picture in your mind, which translates into a feel. That's the way I see it. And then all of a sudden you don't have to worry about where your ball is going to go. In my case, I just say, if I swing, if I feel this, I know where it's going. And that makes it much more simple for me.
Yeah, so just you got the one thing is feel and real need to look the same eventually. I mean, that's your goal. It ain't going to be the same when you start. Nobody is, right? And then eventually it will be. If you study enough of your videos, not everybody else's, not just study your stuff. Use our site as the reference to guide you along. But then study yourself with yourself. So again, we're going to open up for questions, and if you want to ask Larry a question about playing in the Open or playing on the PGA Tour or anything about his career, Larry is a phenomenal player. He can bring a lot to anything technical, or if you want to just playing wise. You ask him if you want to ask a question about the night or your own game or your own swing. Feel free to do that. And you can text it in too if you want. Somebody's going. Quiet crowd tonight. Sure, I think that's all. Yeah, that's just this.
Hey, Matt.
Yo.
Matt.
Yo.
Hey, this is Greg, and I'll keep it short because I've got a cold and I'm coughing all the time. But Larry, hey, pleasure to meet you here on the website. I have a question for you because I'm getting up there in age too. How do you deal with flexibility? And to me, golf is, I know Matt's program, it's all about flexibility. And when you get to a certain age, if some of that flexibility isn't there anymore, so how do you deal with stuff like that?
Boy, you know what? That's a great question, because now it becomes a job if you want to play at a top level game of golf. I mean, you're going to have to stretch. You're going to have to create your own program, and then just like getting up in the morning and reading the paper and drinking a cup of coffee, you're going to have to get into, well, my goal is to shoot par or better, and unless right now I have a chiropractor, and I'm going through my sessions, and he's busted my body all up, and so you got to make the effort. It's like, how important is your game? And it's not like we were as kids, as we just recover. Well, we don't do that anymore. And I mean, I'm 63, so it's your commitment would be the best way I could describe it. And it sounds easy, but you know, you just gotta have to find the time. You just have to find the time to do it.
Okay, thank you. Makes sense.
One thing I would say, Greg, if you go to, of course, because you're on our site, I'm going to tell anybody that's watching is, if you study these videos, go to the fitness page here, and then you go to the injury prevention. The way we set these 3 pages up, a lot of you don't know this part, but the first video is just kind of good to show. It's another way of showing structure and alignment through kind of push hands. But then after you get past that, second video all the way down, all these things are about injury prevention, but they're also, it's about neutral spine. If you understand neutral spine, then you'll understand the whole, basically, hour I just spoke on about rooting. Doesn't mean you'll have it through rotation, but you will understand how to have neutral posture when you walk, literally when you sleep from on here. I mean, there's things on how to sleep, and some of you will laugh, and I'm just telling you, these are things. I'm always going to have things on here that teach you like what the top players in the world, they're doing right now, not what a 5 handicap is doing or somebody that's just saying and make believe. These are real things that the best players are doing. Now, I know not everybody has time for this, but there's some people that are way more serious than others. If you take the time and you study the injury prevention techniques, this page right here is as important to me as the progressive ball striking page. Now, after you figure that out and you understand it and you know where you're going with that, the functional golf workouts, we have probably 40 different exercises on how to do certain lifts. And then we have all these different workouts ranging from 10 minutes to 45 minutes to an hour between kettlebells and yoga and you name it, anything that's on here. You'll even see Wes is on here somewhere. There's Wes doing a lower back stretch that we use. And there's all kinds of different things. It's endless, really. And so, you know, you want to use all these. There's not a page that we have on here that I don't believe in. It's just on here just to fill up space. The only one it is this one, Performance Guide. I don't have that up yet because we don't have it all figured out yet. There's still things that we're all trying to learn, that I'm trying to learn, that I'm not ever going to put. I have it on there, but I'm not putting it up there until I've tested it and I know exactly where we're going with this, because there's a lot of different things out there, and I don't know enough truly about it to say. So I'm not. But everything else I do, I've tested and I've worked, and it's been worked in with our players at the bottom level of the players all the way up to the top level, and it's been tried and tested and it works. Everything on all these pages, but injury prevention, functional golf workouts, pure biomechanics is really good, but the first 2 are the ones where you're going to learn the most about yourself, and you'll understand more about rooting through there, but then also how to do the workouts and then which workouts to do. And so I think that'll help you. Creating a routine, that's the biggest thing you can do. You know, I worked a lot with Mark Devine. He's Navy SEAL, that talks about how to create routines and you know where to do it. The thing that you have as a golfer is you have this certain allotted time. So you have a full-time job, you have a family, you're doing all these things. Some do, some don't, but most people on here do, and they're really tight with time. And so what we try to do is show a lot of different things where you don't spend hours trying to do ball striking, 1, because it doesn't work. 2, because it doesn't work. You just learn how to put in 10, 15 minutes of a little bit of fitness, a little bit of ball striking, and then when you have time in the mental game and all these, and create small little blocks instead of trying to do you know, all this stuff, you know, if that makes sense. But you do have to create habits. You know, some do it before work, some do it after work where they get their workouts in, but I would just find the time and use our program to help guide you along, because I believe in it 100%. It's what I use. I've seen it at, like I said, at every level. I've seen a guy that's playing a U.S. Open that used this program, and if he wouldn't have used this program, he wouldn't be playing a U.S. Open. I think Larry would vouch for that as well. Larry knows what Wes was going through more than I do, even when he came in, how wounded he was and where he is now. You know, he's playing because his joint function correctly, and it's about longevity as much as it is about changing your swing. That's great, but it's also about what happens if you're injured, you can't play. It's about longevity.
And also one last thing is, like, as you get older, guys, you need to listen to your body. You know, I mean, if you're hitting him and it's not feeling right or whatever, it's telling you, I'm fatiguing, I'm tired. And rest for 10 or 15 minutes. It's not about how many drivers you can hit anymore and feel great. So when your body hurts, it hurts. It's telling you I hurt, which means that's going to limit your rotation. It's going to limit your golf swing. So, you know, just listen to it. That's all.
Yeah, it's more important. Like even Larry and I worked on today. We talked about it's not how many reps he gets in, even on his own. It's about the efficiency of it. You know, I'd rather have 10 good reps in a 1-day session with full swing than I would 1,000 that are 50-50. I'd rather have 10 perfect reps that what's working for that player. That's more efficient than having lots and lots and lots of reps. I don't count that. I just count what the efficiency rate is, and that's what we're looking for. And same in your fitness too. It's not about going out and just going crazy. Just be patient with it. Like I said last week or 2 weeks ago, I was like, just get started. Go for a walk to start. If you don't do exercise at all, get going with something. Just get moving for 10, maybe 5-10 minutes or something like that. Walk around the block, walk your dog, come back, and then try the kettlebells and see if you don't feel better and if it doesn't get the blood flowing. And the goal is to get started. Once you get started, you get your heart rate up a little bit. You'll start, in my opinion, you'll start to move. I think what a lot of problems are with that I find with talking, mostly just asking questions to players, is why do they not work out? Well, I don't have an hour. Well, you don't have to have. My first response to that is you don't need an hour. Or then it's like, well, I think about trying to work out for 30 minutes to an hour, and then I just talk myself out of it. That's when the truth comes out. They talk themselves out of it. And the third one is that they think about, if they go to a gym to work out with other groups, the way they're going to look, like what people are going to think when they get there. Like they think they're going to be judging them, and I can tell you they don't have time to be worrying about all that stuff. But I'll say this. This is where if you just get started with it, that's the key to it. It's not about being perfect. Don't try to think of doing a workout for 30 minutes to an hour. Think about going out for 3 to 5 minutes maximum and swinging a kettlebell around for 3 to 5 minutes. Listen to your body. Listen to your mind after that's over, after 3 to 5 minutes. And if you feel like quitting, go ahead and put them back down and try it another day. But the odds are you'll feel pretty good, like, uh-oh, this is different. Your blood starts flowing. You feel good, and then you can continue your workout, which would be what I would recommend.
Okay, thank you. All good advice. That's awesome.
Thanks, Greg. And if there's any more questions, just let me know.
Well, yeah, I would like to chime in at the risk of sounding a little bit like an infomercial. I mean, one of the things that has really been great for me about the program is, you really helped me with my golf swing, but you kind of motivated me to kind of take more responsibility for my fitness. I'm working the kettlebells now and trying to do some overall fitness, and I'm kind of really feeling better about my health. I'm stronger. I'm feeling more in balance, in the golf swing, and finally, the brain is finally starting to figure this out, I think. And, it's the kind of the whole, thing that really makes it work for me.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I know this tonight, it may, like you said, it does kind of sound a little bit like an infomercial with what we're doing, which we don't try to do that, but it is coming maybe that way. But like Mike, one of the things I think you could give some input on, I'm glad you're on here, but you had went and searched out for a kettlebell instructor after I think one of our workout webinars, and I asked to see because you told me you weren't converting, your golf swing wasn't converting, and you were like doing kettlebells, and I said, I don't know if that's possible. And I was like, let me see, show me what the kettlebell swing that you're doing. And this is, I think this is really important because it is very common. I'm not saying there's only a few people out there. I'm just saying that only people I believe in with kettlebells, if it's not us teaching you one-on-one, is I believe in RKC certified, Russian kettlebell certified. If they're not RKC certified, they probably don't know what they're doing. So the first time Mike got on, we did a live training session. I watched him swing the kettlebell, and I went, and I was like, "What are you doing? That's not a kettlebell swing." And you were like, "Well, she says it's pretty good," or whoever it was is. And I was like, "No, Mike, you got to find this isn't going to work." So Mike went and searched and found an RKC instructor in his local area, which is, I forget, he can tell you who it is. It's Pete something. He can tell you all about it.
In the Chicago area here, in the western suburbs, this guy by the name of Pete Moore, and he's really excellent.
Mike, do you care to share about how different it was since you switched up the kettlebell training?
Well, he's kind of taught me the right way to do it, which really, when you do it properly, this really engages the hips. And all of a sudden, now when I get into my golf posture, it just feels more comfortable. I've got more mobility in my thoracic area. I just feel more in balance and more structured. It's you don't really see when I get on when I swing a golf club, I don't really have any visions of the kettlebell swing, but somehow it just seems to all work together. I don't know, but even if I never swung a golf club again in my life, I would still do the kettlebells. I mean, it's just amazing what it does for your body and your balance and your fitness. I mean, I've become a believer in just in a couple of short months.
Yeah, I always preach the kettlebells because it's not even as much about what it does for your golf swing, which it will do more things for your golf swing than you could ever imagine. And I preach it not because like, oh yeah, well I don't know what it does. I know exactly what it does. And it's the only thing in fitness that I can say I can give it to 100 players, and 100 people will walk out moving better in their golf swing than before. And I can tell you in different fitness programs, there's all kinds of different routines you can do. But when you walk out, is it really better or is it not? Is it better or is it the same or is it worse? There's some fitness routines that are actually worse. There's actually, I think there's actually more that don't help you in your golf swing that will work against you than there are that are good. I can assure you, if you get with an RKC certified instructor, get ready because you want to be a ball striker. It's coming. It just gets full joint mobility. Another thing that I think that the players on here that are working on that can vouch for is the way it makes you feel. It makes you, like Larry said, he's just confident. I'm like, yep, no doubt. The kettlebells give you this kind of this mindset after you get done. All of a sudden, I don't know why it works like this. All I know is it makes you feel strong. It makes you feel happy. And so it's so good for you mentally. Like Mike was saying, regardless of the golf, you start thinking, well, if anything, I just feel really strong and you feel athletic. But your golf you're swinging. Like I watched Mike swing today. I watched him swing the kettlebells and I was like, man, that's phenomenal. It's just totally different. It's exactly what we're trying to look for. And then as he goes to hit golf balls and his swing was the best I've seen it. And I know he's been working on it and all that, but it was like we hit like 5 or 10 balls, and he can vouch for this, but it's like I watched him hit 5 or 10 balls and I said, you're good. I'll see you in 2 weeks, and we're not going to charge you for the lesson, and not going to, and if he comes back in 2 weeks like that, I told him, and he'll I said, if you come back 2 weeks just like you are right now, go get some rounds in, and your techniques like that, you don't need to be in the live training session. You need to either do just the members only. You can go on your own way. You can do whatever you want, but I'm confident that we've done our job. I'm confident the program has done its job, and I'm telling you. It's not just kettlebells, but kettlebells are a major part of it. So get out your kettlebells. So do we have, are there any other questions? Feel free to fire away if you do, if you have any.
Hey Matt, can you hear me?
Yeah, hey, what's up, James?
How's it going? You okay?
Good, you?
Yeah, not too bad. I was just wondering, like, what sort of routines you do with like people like West Shore before like these big tournaments, like the week before.
Nothing really. Wes has been around so long. He really just kind of his own coach. To be honest with you, at this point, Wes,
Yeah.
For I don't know, however long, whenever Larry said we met,
years,
and we worked together. Larry remembers this 3 to 5 times a week. I mean, just constantly. Wes knows what he's trying to do and how he's trying to swing. He called me last night I was sleeping actually when he called, and I think he's just kind of nervous about the tournament. But he was telling me a little bit about it, and we never talked technique. He didn't ask me about technique. He didn't want to know what I thought because he wouldn't be there. That's not what I do. I gave him a couple ideas on meditation, to focus on emptying the mind, clearing the mind, creating a visual. If you ever, you're gonna probably at some point lose focus and energy when you get on that golf course at some point. Hopefully not, but in reality you will. And I told him that I wanted him to, when he does, is between shots, is slightly close his eyes, just where they're open, but so he can see the fairway. But as he's walking, just zone out everything, really just chill out and just get everything right, and then be ready for his next shot. Be in the present every shot. That's advice that I gave him. But I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, he already knows all that stuff. But I did think it was important to tell him about recharging the batteries, because of the fact that if you're not going to sleep well, he's probably very nervous. He's going to know more about him than I know, but he's probably not going to sleep really well. And when you don't, the only other thing you can do, the second best thing to sleep is so if you meditate, and 10 minutes can make you may wake up and feel horrible, and all of a sudden you get a good 10-minute meditation in, and all of a sudden you feel like you're back. It's like sleeping. So that's what I told him. And but like for him, preparing for this has been like you would hear, like it's really, actually it is a lifetime, but it is he's been prepared all year. He prepares in the winter, and then if you watch his career, he always plays better towards the kind of middle of the summer to end. This year he's played a little better earlier because he had more defined goals earlier. In the winter, when we spent the last time we really worked together would have been, I guess it was, maybe December-ish, somewhere in that area. It was just about, was talking about what he should do, and he's wanting to have more defined goals, and I tried to help him a little bit with that. But he's a grown man. He knows how to swing a golf club. He knew how to swing a golf club before I was ever around, that's for sure. But I did help him with getting his spine rooting better and getting the spine on top and things as well. But he's a ball striker. He's a thoroughbred. You just point him and he goes. But he is with that being said, there are some things that he was making mistakes on that he did need to clean up, and I think he's done a really good job. My thing is you don't want to get in the way of the player. Most of these coaches, when you're watching them on the tee with their players at this thing, they're not really saying anything. They're not really. They might say, hey, do a little bit of this. But if they're out there training, one, it's probably a really bad coach, and two, it's somebody you definitely don't want to bet money on for that week as a player. If they're out there training and really grinding, trying to figure out all this stuff, it's either there, it's not. So that part, I think he'll be really good because he's ready. He really is. He's got to get used to the greens, and he's got to get used to things that I could never teach him. I'll never know what it's like to feel like to putt on the U.S. Open green that are as fast as those. But he will, and he'll adapt and adjust to it.
Yeah, no, that's good.
But he's prepared, like what you're asking. What would we do? I would do it's really nothing, to be honest with you. I mean, just the same thing he's been doing. He played really well last week. I was more mental with the advice that I gave him, but it's very rare that he needs a lot of physical help anymore. He knows so much about his own swing that he knows what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I guess actually, I take that back. I did get him a piece of advice. I watched him at the Hills. He was first round qualifier. It was really odd. I hadn't seen him in a while, and I was working with another player, a junior golfer, trying to get into the U.S. It was at the Hills. Larry knows where that's at here in Austin. So does Greg. But their first round qualifier was there, and I didn't realize he was even there. Well, he was there. I ran out and found him out on the course. He was missing left, and I told him, take a little longer time in transition, and it worked. He said he started hitting back. It's how simple it is for somebody at that level, and their misses aren't that bad. But I will say this: when they do miss at that level, Wes's standards are different than most. And so left for him doesn't look like left for most, but it is left, and so it can wear on him, and he developed that problem. And then I told him to take a little longer in transition, and get his right side kind of out of the way, and that's what we worked on. And they said he qualified the next day, but truthfulness, he'd probably qualified anyway. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if it helped him, truthfully. He's already a great player.
Cool. No, thanks. I sent you a swing if you maybe have a little look one time.
I saw that. Did you send it by email?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
If I can't pull it up on here tonight, I'll pull it up on our next webinar, if that's all right. Jim Frank sent one in too, but with Larry coming in this week, I didn't really pull them up for tonight. But we'll see towards the end if I can find them on here.
Yeah, I'll try to get some better ones on the course, but that was all I had at the moment.
Yeah, Larry wants to talk to you a little bit about, he had some input he wanted to say.
Here's a good piece of advice anyway for me, and I've learned from some very prominent instructors, including Matt, is that if you're working on technique and you're by yourself, please have a mirror or a camera or something so that you can see what you're working on. And it's not about how many you hit. And what I would do, I can take 25 balls and I'll hit, look, and again, creating that picture that creates that feel. And then you've got something to draw from when you go to the first tee. And I think that's pretty prominent on what a lot of guys do. And again, you can't see yourself, and if you think you're doing it right, most likely you're not. And that's what I've learned from it. So, and it's not about how far you hit it. I love the 20-yard shots, and what are you trying to achieve when you practice? But mirrors and cameras they're golden. I mean,
use the on the cameras work better now, just because now you can put them at ground level, reverse them, and you can see yourself. Like an iPad, like we do it. Or an iPhone, do that, though you can study yourself and record it. Don't just look at it live, record it. Hit real shots, hit in training, and see how your training may look different than your live shots, and then try to match those up. And you'll find it's really tough to change your swing. The new guys on here, it is. The old guys have been on here, they've already done it, been there. Now you're good to go. But it's tough to look physical looking changes. Like, it's going to probably look the same. Well, if it looks exactly the same and it's a problem, then it's not that you're not trying hard enough, you're not exaggerating enough, and you have to exaggerate in a live swing. You can fake out a fake swing. So you might have your fake training swing looks perfect, where it's like you look at it and it's like exact. Then you go video it in a real live swing and it's like it looks nothing like that. So that tells you need to, if you get to that state, you don't need to. Now this is training. I would never do this if I was going to play a money game or something like that. That's crazy. You got to. That's training. But if you're in training mode, it's on a Monday and you're trying in training mode to change this thing, you're going to have to change how much you exaggerate. And then so the more you exaggerate, you'll start seeing light changes. And then all of a sudden you keep exaggerating. It'll give you confidence because you'll start seeing like, okay, I can change this. I can move. You can change whatever you want. It could be shaft, face, could be body. It doesn't mean it's right. I'm just saying you can change it. But if you just swing natural and try to think of changing it, the odds on you changing are about 1 in a million. You won't change anything if you video. It won't look any different. It'll feel different. But then when you look at it, it looks the same. And it won't be. It won't be any different. Essentially, it's just psychological. It's kind of like placebo. It says, in training, is it better to focus on the body and let the club follow or manipulate the club? Let's see. I think you want the club and body connected together. I don't think you want to, the club, it just depends on the backswing. Yeah, the body's going to be outrunning the club because the body. On the downswing, it's always going to look like the body's outrunning the club, but you don't want to feel that. You want them to be connected together because the club head's going to be behind the body on the down. When you get out of transition, the club's behind and it's further away from impact than your body is. So your body's always going to look like it's outrunning it, even though if you try to outrun it, you're going to miss it off the planet. Yeah, and again, if you stay rooted and you connect, if you get out of transition, you do the slow down effect. Come out connected together, whole body, not one, whole body being the club, the whole unit. They come out together, you're going to be all right. But if you come out spinning the hips or you come down and you stop your hips out of transition and snap the club down, you're going to have sequencing issues. And so you want to feel, the feeling is connected, like it is connected, but not tight. That's the feeling. Might be in tension, I should say.
Hey, man. It's Jim Franks.
Hey, Jim, what's up?
Hey, not too much. Before we start, I just want to tell you, my brother 2.5 months ago had the bilateral knee replacements.
Yep.
And he's been working his butt off. And today he shot under par.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate him. But something that I'm finding useful, talking about training and taking videos and when to do it and all that. You know, when you're working on stuff, when I'm working on stuff, I'll get things to where I think they're looking pretty good, this and that, and then I go out to play, and my warm up, I like to hit about 50 balls, you know, and most of those are inside 50 yards. But I just like to swing like 50, 60 times. That's just me. That's what I like to do. And before I go out and play, I'll hand one of my buddies a camera and go, okay, I'm all warmed up and I'm ready to play, and I'm not thinking about golf swing. So here, take one of me down the line and face on. And then I'll take that home later and evaluate it, because that's when I'm not thinking about anything, right, other than playing golf. And then I'll go, oh, man, I'm still doing this, I'm still doing that. And then I'll take that information and work on something specific in my training. So that's what I'm doing. I don't know whether that's good or bad, but I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, Larry's over here saying perfect. He's been
Perfect.
saying that ever since you've been talking. So he loves that, and I do too. I mean, I agree. I mean, I think that's exactly what you're trying. That's perfect. And Jim, you said I'm going to try to find yours as well, Jim. I did find James' swing. James, you still on here?
Yeah, sure.
This was the swing you sent in today, right?
Yes, that's that one was a better one. The bad shot one was the one I said before.
Come a long way with your
The
swing.
quality of that isn't very good, I don't think, that one.
We're just going to let it run, and then we'll it's not a bad swing. I saw it earlier today. It's pretty athletic. It's a little flippy left and all that, but that's not bad. Like Larry's sitting here, and he knows what a golf swing's supposed to look like. It looks good. He did all this, learned all this online. You know,
That is fantastic.
Cool. Yeah, so I wouldn't tell you, let me look at it a little bit in depth here. Yeah, I agree with that. It's a little lefty going through the ball with that left hip too. You know, one of the things, if you look, as you come through the ball here, watch about spinning out of that left hip, even right there. The club's on plane, but the club's actually open to the plane, so that means it's going to be closing through the ball, which means it's going to go.
That's what I have to fight all day.
And so I would tell you to turn your left foot in towards the camera here, turn it back in, you know, like a little bit like the torque drill. Hit some shots, hit some shots like that, and that'll straighten it. It will, I mean, because it'll chase it. There's other ways to do it. Be a little harder. I would just make it really easy. I'm a big believer in making things easy, but the club is on the baseline, but it's a little open to the baseline. Then it's going to close really quickly through here. And that hip, it doesn't look bad down the line. Somebody's going to go, look, yeah, he's wide open. He looks good. But that weight's too far deep into the heel. And I could come in, if I was to come in and push on you from over here at that point right here, I would push you sideways. That means that there's not enough weight on your left side there. Now, I know it, you'd say, how would you know that? I just know it because I can tell by the rooting. But it is. If you look at it face on, there's not enough weight on the left. There's not enough weight on the left side. It's more because this hip is rotating so hard, it's pulling that weight back in here, which means that you've got a break in your spine there. So it's not, and again, and that's really picky. Like Larry, first thing he said was, it's a great swing. That swing, if you didn't change it, and if you didn't change it and you just play competitive golf and you keep playing and shorten your fall through, I don't like your fall through that long with a wedge. You don't like it either, do you?
Yeah, no, that was just a full swing. Like, I don't swing like that with the wedge.
Cut that fall through off right here, first of all. It cuts the rotation. Larry knows what I'm talking about. But what club is that, a wedge or 6-iron or 5-7? What is it?
It's a wedge, but I just did a full swing. I wouldn't hit shots like that.
No.
The tour player right here. Now, we've talked about
Phil
this.
Mickelson, I mean, use him as an example.
Yeah, watch these guys in the U.S. Open from like even a 5-iron down. They'll shut that fall through. Jordan, yeah. What I like now, again, this is all just opinion for me personally. I don't like my hands to get past my left ear with an iron. And I don't mean now. I could show you players that do it. I'm not saying that you can't play at the win major championships not doing that. I'm just saying that I don't think that you should hit probably a 5-iron to a sand wedge or anything where your hands get past your left ear. I'm talking about not. I'm talking about where they don't come wrap around your back like they're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know. Obviously, your ball flight it'd be better trajectory and stuff.
See, all that right there is creating potential for injury. Anybody that understands the spine is it looks good. You'll see Roy McIlroy hit his driver, and it looked actually very similar to that. And Jason Day, and you'll see all the driver, the momentum carries that. But it's actually all superficial. That spine is not designed to be rotated like that. Anybody that knows anything about the spine would tell you to shorten that. But for just ball flight reasons only with an iron, now with the driver, you can do that. I'm not going to tell you I don't like it for your spine, but I just have to get over that. But for an iron, it doesn't make any sense because it's all superficial, and if you shorten the fall through, in my opinion, it'll shorten out some of that swinging kind of hard left with through the ball. I would tell you if I look mechanically, I'd like to see your arms more about right. I think Riley would too. You can swing left like that, but it pulls. It's kind of superficial. I'd like to see your hands in this area, right up in here. So if you took your hands, if they're right this area, which is really nice playing, but if you put them right here on their left shoulder, it would match more up to your golf swing going back the other way. So if you look, you're kind of more on your right shoulder going up, and then you kind of get more left. See how left that shaft is right there? Superficial. Yeah. That's a pull. So
how would you get it there?
You'd have to manually do it. I don't even know if you don't have to do that. Now, there's some people that want you to exit left, but that's so hard left, you're going to miss is going to be a pull. Come through the ball, the easiest way, I think Larry would tell you old school, they just tell you finish higher.
Finish higher, yeah.
Finish higher. I mean, I don't think there's anything that's
swing down the line more.
Yeah.
Let it go.
I think so. I mean, you're not going to see that.
That would limit your rotation, too.
That'll limit some of the rotation, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So,
see, I fight that left shot. It gets bad with the driver. That's off the tee, like, it's not manageable.
It's coming down the baseline perfect here. But what's happening, what you don't realize, you got to realize it's not, the swing doesn't stop here. It's slamming through. As you're getting here, a lot of guys are trying to swing like what you're doing right there, but you're actually doing it. And so that club handle is getting so hard left, you're not rolling the face over like I thought you were. It's just you're swinging it so across and pulling that you're going to hit a pull. So I would tell you to finish higher, hands higher position, and just try it and do it with your wedges. Don't try to do it with don't try to go out and do 7-irons and drivers or play a money game tomorrow doing it. Just ease in, make it a little bit, make it get over here an inch a little bit, and watch it. And then eventually over time, get it up there to where it's in line with your inside portion of your left shoulder. Don't. I wouldn't say just force that yet, because if you go radical, I'm afraid it's going to throw you off a little bit.
I see what I can deal with timing wise, but I think a lot of people say I swing too long as well, which I feel I do. I lose the club sometimes with the bigger ones.
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
A lot of people say I swing too long, which I feel I do, but I think I lose the club sometimes.
I don't think it's too big a deal. What I thought was the fall through's too long. I don't think that your backswing. I mean, it was a wedge. You don't need to go that hit. I think Larry would agree. But you're really mobile. I would probably shorten it a little bit, but I wouldn't. I didn't think that's if you end up with a long swing and you fix your, I think if you fix your fall through and your weight shift, that's where you're weak. And then you can get away with a lot more. You can have a bigger backswing. Bubba Watson has one.
Do I need to feel that my weight's going more to the toes on the left foot?
If you feel on your left toe, I would bring your left foot back in.
Yeah, just do that.
And that'll create the torque. And then your arms will finish more up in front of you.
Naturally, my body wants to spin that way so bad. It's really annoying.
Yeah, it'll always be. And you've been on here. You've been training for a long time, and I think you've done a phenomenal job with your golf swing and your game too. I mean, I see all the scores you send in. But I think that it's going to piss you off. I'll just tell everybody, when you try to change your swing and if it's what I'm going to be telling you is always opposite of what you're going to want to hear. similar to what Larry and I worked on today.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, it's not going to necessarily be what you want to hear. It's just going to be, that's why you have to set eyes, you know, because it's going to, the solution is always opposite of what you do natural, really. I mean, it really is. Let's see here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely.
So this is Jim Franks. Jim, you on here?
Yeah, let me unmute here. Yes, I am.
Okay, yeah, all right. So you coming on up. This is Jim. We're going to watch it go through here. Jim's really been playing some, from what I gathered, some really good golf of late. He's got a blog. I'll send a link of Jim's blog. I would recommend anybody go out and follow that one, because you should start your own. Like I said last week, I think everybody should start their own blog. I think you should start. That way it gives you responsibility. You can track your visual, and you can track the goals that you want to achieve, and you have it's down on paper, you know, or essentially the internet or whatever. But I think there's so much success to people that I find that have success. Like I've known Larry for a long time. You have a journal that you use religiously, you know, and he uses video like crazy to study himself, his own swing, not anybody else's, but his own. Those are the two things. You want the visual, the video for visual reference to make sure that it's real, and then you want the journal to track where you're going, and then eventually that journal gets really narrow with what you actually say. I mean, relative to technique. So as Jim's always fought kind of rolling clay. He's rolling a little bit here.
I'm still rolling the damn thing.
Rolling out that way, but one thing that's a lot, but it is better, because then what happens is he gets about right here and he starts to stand the shaft back up where it should be. Some of it's flat body angle. The shaft right here, that is on the baseline. That is not open. That is right on the money. Then his body's away from him, and it's good. Like even Larry's saying here, there's where your arm should finish, James. Right in there. That's left of. That's not necessarily left. That's pretty much exact. Jim hits it really good, but James, does that make sense?
I like the way his playing comes down, like at the baseline. Like it just looks like he's got control with the hands. I don't know.
Yeah, baseline's excellent. And if you watch, and of course he's been in the program a little bit longer, but he wants things that you have. Like when I was looking,
oh yeah, James' swing. I mean, there's so much good there. It's really, really good stuff.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and it is. I mean, where James was much better in this area, but this isn't the.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, Jim knows what he's trying to do here. He stands it up at the end. He knows he's patient in transition. He gets it on the baseline, and then bam, that ball's going straight, and it's compressed.
I just think
that flag out here that I'm aiming at.
Yeah, that's good.
I just think the way that people grip the club, seems like you've got good control with both the hands. Like, I just don't feel that mine does that automatically.
You'll see the if he goes a little further, the face on, I outrun it with my hips, and you can see me hanging on to one.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
here I go.
Here, and so even though he's hitting the baseline, this is something, and all that means is this lower body just outran it just a little forward. But what I look for at this, when the club's in the baseline, you'll see typically no space right there in that gap right there. When the club's truly it's on the baseline right now. Now, does that mean, it doesn't mean he can't play. I can tell you right now he can play. It just means that that's a weak spot because he's losing some angle. But you can see how he's fighting it off through the grip alignment and those.
That's what I did. I fought it off. Yep.
And it kind of naturally happens. That's why you see Jordan Speed kind of fight it out. If you outrun it a little bit, you're going to dump some of the angles. So when you get up here, it's good in transition there, and then his body just runs a little bit forward, just a little bit, just enough that it starts to tip the club on the next frame out a little bit. So
would you feel that the club's got to come down quicker and the body stays less?
The body would have to feel like it stays back more in transition longer. It'd have to feel
For me, I need to feel when I do this and when I get to doing this, I have to feel a left side connection between my bicep and my rib cage a little more earlier and and consistently throughout the swing. Because what I'll start to do is I'll start to run my bicep up and over my pec, and then that adds a level of uncertainty coming down through, and my body can outrun it. But if I keep that a little better connected, like the boxer's shoulders kind of deal, then I don't do that.
And if you study this from a different perspective, I'll show you what I'm talking about. When he gets over here, right there, he's really heavy left, but he's light right. These should still be rooted with both. And so that means his body outran it. There's 100 ways to say this, but I always just, you want it real simple. He just outran it. And so his body ran out in front.
Yeah, if his club was earlier, if that club was earlier, it would be perfect, right?
And if you retain the angle, if he tried to retain the angle, he'd just block the piss out of it. It would not be the right way to go about it. He's releasing the club naturally for him, and it is good. If you watch it through here, you're sitting like a 100 shoe. You swing like that, you'll be okay. But what I will say is, if you're being like, what are we really missing here? Bottom line is he's just outrunning it, and the way you prove that is if you look, if he's like he's too heavy left when he's on the baseline, and the right leg is not rooted still enough. There should be a little bit less rotation here. If there's less rotation, left moving, less weight mass to the left right here, then he would be able to retain more angle here.
Yeah, you can just see that my belly has shot down past, the right underneath my neck, and those should be matched up, and they're not, because my hips got out of the way and they took my stomach with it. It's that old move of trying to make power through a big shift and drive, that's what I did when my back was hurting every day.
Yep.
But now it doesn't, because I don't swing that way anymore.
No, and look at the spine now. It's literally perfect, straight up and down, all the weight on the left side. Go to any driving range in the country here and just watch amateurs hit and find out how many players actually get to their left foot. Just forget all the techniques. Just take a study. I did it one day. I was out there. It was actually Wes and I were out there at Falcon Head. We were going to try. We were just having fun with it. We were just watching all the players. We sat out there for probably an hour and a half. This was probably 6-7 years ago. We were out there for an hour and a half, and we didn't see one player that got to their left foot. Not one. And there's some good, decent players, but none of them got their left foot, like you're really designed to get. And so if you look at Jim, there's more good than bad. The only bad, there's a little energy leak, but he can get rid of that with just what he's doing. I mean, he's chipped it. If you look at how Jim's swing has changed over and evolved, and of course it matches up to his game. I mean, I think Jim, you said that last time text I got from you or something was like, you're shooting 75. Your worst scores now or your bad days are 75s, and now it's a totally different ball game. It's not 84s, 5s, 9s, 90s, whatever. It's 75
right.
Bad day. And so it's chipped away, but our philosophy, Jim knows as well as I do, is that our philosophy is just chip away 1% every day. It doesn't need, that's not going to look perfect. It's going to be, that's Jim Frank's golf swing. It's going to be his.
That's the big thing now, Matt, is that I know what this is. I know what all of this is. And I know the good stuff and the bad stuff, but I know it. I know what I am now. And I had no idea before I started this program, and I never would have known. And I'm not done this. I never would have known. And, it's just so much freaking fun playing. Whether I play good or bad, it doesn't really matter. I'm always having fun now because I know what it's all about. It's just, I can't thank you enough. And I know I send you texts all the time saying that, but I can't thank you enough for this.
No, I appreciate it. You got anything else to say?
No, thanks for being patient and just keep working on your game and doing what you're doing. I'm also very privileged and happy to be in this program.
We're probably going to wrap it up. I need to get Larry's a guest of ours tonight, so we may cut it off a little early here. I need to get him some food in him. So anyway, we're going to wrap it up. And if you have any more questions, send me swings. This is good because video is always going to make it look worse than what it really is. And you don't have to, just remember, when you're studying yourself, study it, be critical and all that stuff and all that. But you remember the score is the main game. And you don't have to be perfect with technique in one day. You just start trying to chip away at it. And it'll get better. And then that's the goal, is just getting a little better as you go along. But see,
Yeah, it was funny because this guy who's like off scratch has stopped playing and he's just doing a load of training. And he come to our course the other day and like he couldn't beat me around there. Like they just don't do any playing. Like it's too much training.
yeah, yeah, no, that's right. I mean, if you get over technical and you're not playing, that's not the goal. It sounds good, but it's not the goal, and it's not what we do. You just chip away at it, and the best players that I know and they have a gamer mindset. I know Larry. He's not in here right now. He just walked out, but Larry, he is a ball striker now, and he is a gamer. I mean, he's got a mentality. Now he'll train too. Don't get me wrong, but he's a gamer first and foremost. And the best players that I know, they are gamers. And what does that mean? It means going out and playing, putting your money where your mouth is, and trying to compete. That's where these journals will come in handy, and some of the other things I've talked about, playing money games and those things, may not be what anybody wants to hear, but I've never met a great player that didn't come from that. So, and just watch the U.S. Open this week and study. Listen to because the thing about this, I don't know who is at everybody. There's so many people in the program. I don't know who's at what level, but I can tell you, one thing I learned about teaching is never take anything for granted. When you watch the analysis of the tournament, don't necessarily watch. I'm not saying about their swing and try to change all your swing or make your swing look like the champion that won the event. That's not what I'd ever say. But do watch about how the ball runs around the greens and watch how the caution and study the tournament, how they play. The U.S. Open, there's not a better tournament in the world to study how to score and strategy and learn from the bad and learn how to get over a shot than this one right here. This is going to be the #1 tournament all year, that especially this particular golf course. And what I gathered last night talking to Wes, this is going to be a beast of a golf course. And
Yeah, it's looking mental.
mental.
Rough and things.
Everybody on the program, just study. I know John Fields, the coach of the University of Texas. I think they got second this year in the national championship as a team. He makes his players DVR the golf tournaments, not to study all the analysis, but just to watch the mistakes that they make and to watch the good shots that they make and to study and just learn how to play the game. There's so many things you can learn: when to chip and run, when to hit a pitch, how to hit a bunker shot. A lot of the ways I learned how to get creative around the greens was just, hell, I didn't come up with it. I just watched people on TV and I was a junior and think, oh, I'll try that tomorrow. And just, be creative. That's part of this. And you can learn so much about watching these tournaments. And I hope everybody enjoys the Open. I hope Wes Short plays his ass off and carries back a trophy. But one thing about it is I'm going to be watching him from start to finish. It's amazing. He's living a dream. This is the first U.S. Open he's played. And it's the first player that I've ever had that I've truly coached that's playing in the U.S. Open. So this is, whatever happens, happens. But I'd never count that man out of any golf tournament. So anyway, I hope
Yeah, it'd be nice to see him do good.
we all do. So that's our goal. And he's ready to play. He's fired up. Whatever happens, happens. But he's ready to play golf. That's for sure. He's not scared. I can put it that way. So anyway, I hope everybody has a great night and hope they enjoyed tonight, and then we'll get back on track here in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
Thanks,
cheers,
Matt.
man.
Thanks a lot, guys.